The day began with fire, but it was not the kind that warms. It was the kind that consumes. The Corval Dominion struck without warning, without reason, and without hesitation. They had identified humanity's fledgling colonies as ripe fruit, unguarded, unfortified, easy spoils. The attack came not on a fortress world nor a battle-ready fleet, but on the quiet colony of Caro's Reach, a world of farmers, miners, children learning beneath the warm light of alien suns. When the Dominion's fleet descended, its commanders did not even activate their full weapon batteries. They considered it unnecessary. Dreadnoughts the size of floating mountains drifted into orbit, casting shadows that stretched across oceans. Their planetary bombardments were not tactical strikes, but crude performances, a demonstration of superiority. Villages were vaporized to ash, atmosphere scorched, communications silenced in seconds. Corval's soldiers laughed over open comms as they broadcast the destruction across the system. "Behold humanity's weakness," one commander declared. His voice carried into every nearby frequency. "They send their children to die among the stars. They plant crops where they should build armies. And now they learn the cost of such softness." To them, Caro's Reach was not a battlefield. It was a lesson. Before departing, the invaders made sure their cruelty lingered. They left burning wrecks in orbit, filled with civilians who suffocated as oxygen failed. They seeded the ruins of cities with their banners, daring Earth to see them fluttering in the poisonous winds. Then, as casually as they had come, they left. The Corval fleet roared into hyperspace, triumphant. To them, it was a minor raid, a note in a logbook, a casual flex of muscle. But to humanity, it was something else entirely. It was a whisper carried across the stars. And whispers, once heard, do not fade. The celebration of the damned in the following days. The Corval Dominion held feasts. Their soldiers paraded through capital streets, recounting how the apekin screamed when fire rained down upon their homes. Their warlords stood upon marble steps, boasting that humanity would never recover, that Earth itself would soon kneel to the Dominion. Did they even fire back? A drunken officer jeered during one such celebration. I saw no resistance. They watched their children burn and could only weep. "We have silenced them already." The Corval archives marked the raid as a triumph of intimidation. Strategists dismissed humanity as prey who had mistaken themselves for predators. Around Dominion worlds, laughter followed whenever humans were mentioned. They mocked Earth's slow diplomacy, its endless negotiations, its reluctance to flex military power. They claimed humanity had grown soft, chained by their own civility. The Dominion's fleets continued on their campaigns, engines rumbling like gods of war. They did not realize that while their ships thundered, humanity's silence deepened, and that silence was not weakness. It was waiting. The silence breaks weeks, passed. The galaxy expected Earth to protest with words. Stern communiques, hollow threats, perhaps a plea to the Galactic Council. That was what civilized species did. But Earth sent no diplomats. No messages? No cries for justice. They sent whispers, faint signals on encrypted bands, strange disappearances of merchant ships allied with the Dominion, reports of unknown fleets seen moving through dark, uncharted sectors, strange silence on human channels, not surrender but something else, something deliberate. The Corval laughed at first. Then the laughter began to falter, because silence has weight. Silence has a presence. And then, one night, if such a word can be used in the void, the silence broke. Across dozens of systems, every Dominion frequency was interrupted. Not with threats, not with boasts, just a single human voice, calm, cold and steady. "You killed our children. You burned our homes. You laughed at our grief. Now hear this. Your loudest machines, your greatest weapons, your fleets that shake suns. We will silence them. Forever." Then the transmissions ended. The silence returned, heavier than before. The mobilization. The Dominion scrambled fleets, ready to crush this insolence. But when their war machines entered contested systems, they found something waiting. Human ships, vast and unnumbered, rising from the dark like leviathans. Their hulls bore no banners, only scars of ancient battles. Some were ships of new design, dreadnoughts with blackened armor and weapons bristling like thorns. Others were relics, resurrected vessels that had once lain in reserve fleets. Reforged for vengeance, they emerged in formation, not as a swarm but as a blade. Precise, silent, relentless. Human admirals spoke no grand speeches. Their orders were whispered across comms, a chilling contrast to the Dominion's thunderous roars, "Cut them down!" And the galaxy shuddered as, Earth's fleets advanced. The retaliation unleashed. The first Dominion fleet to face humanity never sent word. Back sensors recorded silence after their encounter, as though they had never existed. Wreckage was later found drifting near a star. Hulks split apart with surgical precision, engines gutted, command decks cored like fruit. No survivors. Word spread quickly. But before the Dominion could rally, humanity struck again. Every Dominion stronghold within 3 sectors fell in coordinated strikes. Orbital defenses were disabled before they could fire. Capital ships, once thought invincible, were sliced open by weapons that hummed rather than thundered. Even their mighty war machines, machines that could shatter continents, fell into stillness. The galaxy watched in disbelief as the Corval war machine, the loudest, proudest force in the spiral arms, was dismantled piece by piece. The Dominion's commanders bellowed over comms, promising retaliation, vowing to drown humanity in fire. But each declaration was answered with the same whisper from the void. No. You will be silent. And then the bellowing ceased. The storm of retribution. The climax came at the Battle of Ulkara Rift. The Dominion gathered its largest fleet ever assembled. Over 500 warships, with dreadnoughts at their core. They filled the skies of the rift with the sound of engines, the crackle of energy weapons, the war drums of machines built to terrify. To them, it was an unbreakable wall of sound, the roar of empire. But into that storm came humanity's silence. The human fleet emerged without fanfare, without trumpets, without even lights to announce their presence. They drifted forward like shadows. Then their guns whispered fire. The silence became a scythe. In minutes, the Dominion's fleet was broken. Ships detonated in sudden bursts of fire, not from brute force but from precise strikes that gutted them from within. Command ships fell dark as if their hearts had been plucked out. Dreadnoughts, those loudest machines, shuddered, sputtered, and then went cold. Dominion officers screamed orders, but their comms were jammed. Their weapons flickered. Their engines sputtered and died. Where once their fleets roared, now there was only silence. When the battle ended, the rift was a graveyard. Hundreds of ships drifted without power, their husks turning slowly in the starlight. Survivors floated in pods, hearing nothing but the static of failed transmissions. And then a final message came, whispered into their ears. You burned our colony. We have burned your empire. Speak no more of conquest, for your voice is gone. The aftermath. Whispers in the dark, the Corval Dominion did not recover. Worlds that once bowed to them rose in rebellion, emboldened by the sight of their fleets silenced. Neighboring empires that once feared their war machines now spoke of them in pity or in disgust. But the galaxy as a whole, the galaxy learned something far darker. Because humanity did not gloat. They did not carve new empires from the ruins. They did not send ambassadors to remind the galaxy of their victory. They returned to silence. Human fleets withdrew into the void, their vengeance complete. Their comms went dark. They sent no explanations, no warnings, no boasts. Only silence remained, and that silence became the most terrifying sound of all. Across the stars, species whispered, "Never provoke Earth," for they had seen how humanity responds to cruelty. Not with endless debate, not with empty threats, not with noise, but with whispers that silence the loudest machines forever. And in the quiet aftermath, as the wreckage of the Dominion still turned in cold space, the galaxy understood a truth that would never be forgotten. Human patience is vast, but their vengeance is infinite.